Hey Katie, I got your message that you were having trouble with this one, so I'll try to do a quick video to kind of get you squared away. So what I did on the answer key with this one is, since if we're going to solve it by completing the square, we have to make sure that our A is 1. So remember, we're talking about quadratic form. Sorry, that's my dog. Talking about quadratic form there that looks like that, right? So that A value, which is the first term there, has to be 1. So what I did then, if we go back to this problem here, okay, is we have to divide everything by 3 there, including the 0. That's going to now get us to that, right? And then if we're going to solve by completing the square, we have to kind of open up that C spot, which is that third term, so in this case the -3. So I would add that over to the other side. Now from there, I'm going to use that little tiny formula, b over 2 squared, which makes it a perfect square trinomial. B, remember, is your middle term, so in this case the 2. So that's going to be 1 squared, which is 1. That number I add right there, and I also add right there. Okay? And so that gets you set. And then we have made this a perfect square trinomial. So I know it's going to factor down to that right there. And over here you have 4. Then you can just take the square root on both sides. That's going to give you x plus 1 equals plus or minus, and since the square root of 4 is 2, plus or minus 2. And then subtract your 1. And since it is plus or minus, you actually have to add and subtract. So I was looking at -1 plus 2, which would give you 1. And then you also have to do -1 minus 2, which would give you the -3. So that's how you would get there by completing the square, which is the way I did it on the answer key. I can show it to you a different way real quick as well. So if we take that same problem, so for f we had 3x squared plus 6x minus 9. And maybe this is where you were having trouble. If you looked at it as though you were just doing like diamond problem generic rectangle, you could go about it that way. You could divide out the 3 first and then work with it, but if you went right to here, you would do your first times your third, so -27x squared. The middle term would drop to the bottom. Okay? And then for your rectangle, the first term goes first, the last term goes last, and then you're looking to fill in these 2 blanks with whatever we find here and here. So those have to multiply to give you 27, and specifically a -27. So one's minus, one's plus, and then they have to add to give you 6x. And we want it to be a positive 6x, so you're looking at factors of 9 and 3. It should be right there. Okay, and a -3x times 9x would give you a -27x squared. And then if you combine those, it would give you a positive 6x. These now get dumped in over here. And then we're just trying to make this work, basically. So for 3x squared, and this is basically, if you think back to doing your times tables, it's the same concept. You're trying to get where the row and the column meet to kind of work out. So let's say I thought to put my 3x here. Okay, that would put an x there. And then x times what gives you 9x? Well, that would be a 9. And then 3x times what gives me a -3x? That would be a -1. Okay, so that now gets us down to our factors of 3x plus 9 times x minus 1 equals 0. You would have to take one step further and factor out a 3 from here. And actually, you could get away with not doing that, so let me back up for you there. Okay, so we would set each of these factors then equal to 0. Here you're just going to add 1 to both sides, simple enough. Here you're going to subtract 9 and then divide by 3. And there again would be a second method for getting the -3 and the 1. Okay, so same answers, okay, but two different ways to go about it. So I think completing the square kind of always works. Diamond problem, generic rectangle doesn't, but if that's the way you were looking at it, you can do it that way. So I usually wouldn't show two ways, but not sure how you were looking at it. All right, hopefully this helps, Katie, and hopefully everything's going well for you and your family. And yeah, I guess enjoy spring break. But if you can, chime in for the Google Meet tomorrow. I'll set up a calendar invite through Classroom, and I'll go over a couple questions that people have for the new stuff. Okay, thanks, Katie.